In today's video, we're going to be talking about getting unstuck. Now, there are a lot of people who feel stuck in one or more areas of their lives, and I often see clients come to me with some form of stuckness. I'm going to be talking about three main things, okay? I'm going to be talking about safety, I'm going to be talking about trauma, and I'm going to be talking about grief. The first point I want to make is stuckness is a survival response, okay? If you think about a tiger, right? And a tiger is chasing you, let's say in the wilderness. You're on a safari, it's chasing you in the wilderness. You're running away from this tiger, trying to do your best to get away from it. Your energy is depleting, you're getting really tired, you're getting exhausted. You have nowhere to go. And this tiger is right in front of you. What do you think your body would naturally do? Shut down. You're gonna say, you know what? Probably just my time to die. So you freeze. And in that frozenness, is your body's attempts to preserve whatever it has left, even if your life is potentially going to be taken from you. And that's a really important analogy for stuckness, because if you think about something like confusion, right, when we're not sure what decision to make, or burnout, when we've expended too much energy, those are both forms of stuckness. And they're not the only forms of stuckness, but they do allow us to preserve whatever we have left and to make sure that we don't make things worse in the face of something that is potentially life-threatening. So that's the first point. Now, the second point is on trauma. Trauma is a word that gets obviously batted around a lot, and we really need to understand what are the key components of trauma. One of the key components of trauma is, remember that sense that your life is being under threat that we had with the tiger? A lot of people, as functioning adults, without the tiger in front of them, will feel like their life is under threat. Let's say you've had that experience and you survived that experience with a tiger, and now you go to a museum and you see a tiger that's behind a glass wall in a zoo, right? The tiger isn't physically able to come and attack you, but your body will probably still respond according to what it experienced the last time. So it will remember the only other time you've had an experience with a tiger. It will remember that you nearly lost your life. And so irrespective of whether there's glass in between you and the tiger, your body is going to respond as if your life is under threat. And this is a great analogy for trauma, because this is what happens. We tend to have experiences when we're younger because we feel we're generally a lot less powerful. We rely on our parents, we rely on the people around us, we don't have fully functioning cognitive capacities. And so we rely a lot on the people around us, and we're very helpless and powerless as children, right? And it's one of the reasons why parents are so revered in so many cultures, including in the Islamic religion. There's a lot of things they have to do to keep us safe, okay? Now, children, when we grow up into adults, we have a lot of abilities that we didn't before. But our encounters with things in our day-to-day lives as adults often still links back to that original template that we had as children. So if you think about the tiger in the wilderness versus being behind a glass wall in a zoo, you think about childhood and the chaos that came with that and the powerlessness that came with that and the potentially life-threatening things that happened there, and then you think about adulthood, okay? When we're children, our parents not giving us what we want seems life-threatening because it could mean that they don't love us. As adults, we know that's not true, yet in our adult relationships, we might still feel like our life is under threat when people don't give us what we want. And so trauma is actually another way to say stuckness through seeing danger where it doesn't exist. So that tiger is no longer right in front of me, it's behind the glass wall, but I'm responding to it as if it's still going to attack me. And this is what we do with a lot of things that have left us with deep wounds. People who go to wars and come back, when they hear fireworks, it will take them back to the war. That's trauma, right? Human beings or little children that were neglected when they were younger, right? That was dangerous to them. They needed the support of their parents. As adults, they don't need the support of their parents, right? The fact that they see it as life-threatening as an adult is trauma, okay? And so what we want to try and do with trauma as a part of getting unstuck is we need to create safety where we didn't get safety in the first original template. Now, how do we do that? That's a big discussion and debate, and different practitioners have different ways to respond to that question. But various things that we do is we can do exposure therapy, okay, and that could be in your imagination, or it could be in real life. exposure therapy really helps us understand, okay, what that was then and what that is now is two very different things. So for example, if you keep coming back to the zoo and you keep seeing the tiger and you realize the tiger's there behind the glass wall, then you realize, okay, I wasn't safe then, but I am safe now. And it takes time, exposure therapy, okay? Exposure is one key element, and creating safety where it didn't exist before. With a lot of things that human beings go through, there is actually an ability to create safety in past memories. For example, with the child who felt neglected, their parents may have just been working all the time. And so we need to see, what did that child not get that they needed because their parents were working all the time? And how do we give that child what it needs now? That's something we can do in therapy. And then lastly, once this is done, the third place we want to think about stuckness is grief. And grief is really the ability to accept that things couldn't have turned out any other way. It's the ability to let go of the hope that things could have turned out any other way. No matter what I would have done, no matter what you would have done, our lives would have ended up just the same, okay? Now this is really powerful, especially for those of you that are practicing Muslims, because it's very aligned with submitting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it's very aligned with the religion in terms of, you know, just accepting that no matter what you do, sometimes you don't have power over your own life. And you only have power when Allah grants that to you. And so grief is a place where some people get stuck because they hold on, they can't let go of the hope that things could have been any different. Now, there's many reasons why people do that. The idea here is that oftentimes the reason we get stuck in our grief is because there's some form of trauma in the grief. So for example, let's say you lose a loved one really quickly, right? Even as an adult, that can leave you feeling very powerless, right? So if something like that happens, you could get stuck in your anger. A lot of people, how easy would it be to let go of something like that? Not very easy at all, right? If you lose a parent quickly and you feel really powerless because it happens at a time where you've lost a lot of other things, like maybe your job and your house, that can be a very traumatic series of events. And so understandably, it's going to be very difficult to let go of. Now, we cannot let go of something unless we feel safe enough to do so. So oftentimes what we see with grief where people can't let go is it's a form of complex grief where there's some form of trauma. So it's not just that they lost something, it's that in losing something, they were faced with their own sense of powerlessness. And in that, they're getting stuck somewhere in there. So grief is stuckness through holding on, right? And the holding on is what gives us the illusion of having control and power, which gives us the illusion of feeling safe. But we all know that holding on to things doesn't make us safe. If you guys have any questions, I know that was a lot of information. You can drop a comment or a question in the description box below. I'll also put down my details, my email and my Instagram. Feel free to reach out to me. And I hope that this was a very helpful video.